When I originally started making online reviews almost 2 years ago now, I didn't really have much expectation for it. To me, it was, and still is, just a bit of a fun hobby that I do when I get the chance. The one thing I did tell myself, however, was to review the things that I wanted to review, regardless of whether it was popular or not. I do feel like I've kept to this rule, somewhat, but I have always felt somewhat nervous to review certain things from my childhood because they don't necessarily have the biggest following. Shows that were on air for a short amount of time and not everyone might remember, and even shows that just don't generally have a sizable following, a la the Steven Universes, the Gumballs, or the SpongeBobs. So today I felt it necessary to cover a show that, while it does have a following, hasn't gotten much critical analysis in the animation reviewer universe. I'm Papercut, and let's go over Bring Out Your Beast from Craig of the Creek.
Isn't this romantic? You and me sharing some tea while learning about the Teapot Dome scandal? Bring out your beast!
The episode wastes no time when it comes to the general plot. When it comes to intros of cartoons, I generally like things to be short, but at the same time give enough context as to what each character needs to accomplish. This gives you a lot of time during the rest of the episode to build motivations, adventure, drama, whatever you need for your story to work. Craig, adamant to learn how to play a card game called Bring Out Your Beast, asks his brother Bernard to teach him how to play it. Bernard refuses, however, saying that he doesn't play silly kids games anymore, and he has more adult things to worry about. I just realized I worded that horribly. That sounds wild. To understand why Bernard would behave the way he does, we have to analyze one of the core themes of the show itself, that being childhood innocence. Craig of the Creek is a show where the kids of the creek have essentially made their own society that they control, free from adults. They have hangout spots, they have shops, and even their own economy. Since these are kids, there's this sense of imagination and wonder about the place. A lot of the plots revolve around Craig and his friends exploring the creek and going on adventures, or just interacting with the different people of the creek. There's the Sewer Nation, the Ninja Kids, the Honeysuckle Rangers, and loads more. So to contrast the children's lighthearted, imaginative nature, a lot of the older people in the show are portrayed as stereotypically adult or grown up. Sometimes they're grumpy, they can think of the kids as childish and judge them for it, and it's even shown that at a certain age, a lot of the kids grow up to leave the creek and think of it as just a dumb place for kids, and Bernard certainly fits into that mold. Oftentimes he has judged Craig for his creek activities, and because of this he can tend to come off as a jerk, which is necessary for this dynamic as we see in the next few scenes.
Which lets me unswipe my Bushelos so I can re-swipe them to attack with Drogon's damage bonus. Hey, what do you want?
Bernard, can I play with you? I'm a little bit bigger now.
You're too dumb to play. You wouldn't get it. Get it. Get it.
What a jerk!
This scene is very important in building the motivation of Craig and Bernard. Like I said before, Bernard has always bullied Craig, but it never gets to the point of making him look like too much of a jerk. In fact, it's just enough to make you root for Craig here. Plus, it's believable for Bernard as a kid to act like this, because not every kid is the poster child for being nice and morally driven. Craig steals Bernard's cards, which creates the dynamic of Craig doing something wrong, but it being justified because of the way Bernard is depicted in the episode so far. We get to the splintery butt. One thing that I can say about the show is that it does a fantastic job of building an atmosphere with its environments. The way the backgrounds are drawn, the subtle detail, the animators and storyboarders get real creative when it comes to these aspects, and the next scene illustrates my point pretty well.
Oh, dude, just play her already. She challenged you. It's the rules.
Fine. Bring out your beast! For my first turn, I play Icarus, the slime snake.
I summon Chillin' Villain, the most dastardly Yeti in the north, and I attack with his frosted fists.
I activate a slime shield. Attack! Attack! Attack!
Everything from the anime-esque background to the hype music and even things like the attacks being represented in real life. It just creates this fun, childlike vibe And I think this is where the show can really shine. Craig and his friends Kelsey and JP pick out a deck so they can challenge someone to bring out your beast. The only thing of note here is this card being displayed at the very front of the deck, which is going to be a nice bit of foreshadowing later on, but it's not too obvious to the point of being a giveaway. Craig challenges someone to a match, and because he has never played the game, more so doesn't even know how to play, he gets his ass whooped, until he plays a beast snare, which immediately scares his opponent into forfeiting. They place heavy emphasis throughout the episode about the power this card holds, and it helps with creating interest for it in the episode. The kid from before, Taylor, explains to Craig the power the card holds, as Craig seems to be a bit confused.
Read the card, you fool! The Beast Snare is a relic from the very first edition of BOYB. The card allows you to literally steal other people's cards, making anyone that has it impossible to beat. And that is one of the last Beast Snares left on Earth.
That is literally the most broken card in any game I have ever heard of. Like, why make a card that literally has no weaknesses, no specific amount of turns it can be used for, and is that powerful? Granted, it was the first edition of the game, but I just find it ridiculous.
Shut the fuck up.
So Turner and the rest of the gang decide to bury the card somewhere no one will find it, as it is too overpowered. Everything seems to be sorted until we get a tease of the major plot twist of the episode. It later turns out that Turner had the intention of taking the card for herself, but that actually gets revealed later on in the episode. As far as the twist itself goes, it's pretty okay. I feel like there was definitely good motivation for Turner to do so, since earlier in the episode it was stated that her cards were extremely basic and outdated, so for her to take it makes sense. The way in which she did it was also very well executed, as she built up the danger of the card, using that fear factor to convince them to get rid of it, only for her to take it, which makes her look even more devious. Everything about this twist was actually pulled off surprisingly well.
Little butler, you people have too much money.
Craig!
Nuh-uh!
Did you bring out my beasts?
Nuh-uh!
Yaha! I keep everything in my room in a very specific place. I know when anything is moved, especially when a binder is laying in the middle of the floor with a note on it that says, I came to life and had an adventure. Love your cards.
The comedy in Craig of the Creek tends to be very understated, as more emphasis is put on the plot and the visuals, and less so on the comedy and humor. But this show can have some funny moments that get a giggle out of me. It's also quite varied, which helps as well. There's slapstick humor, like in the beginning of the episode, when Craig knocked Bernard off his chair. There's dumb humor, like when JP makes a joke about his grades. Then there's humor like the one I just showed you. The comedy here comes from how silly it is that Craig would think putting a note in his folder from the perspective of the cards would be a good idea. Bernard, very upset that Craig took his cards without permission, demands to know where the beast snare is, as apparently it's worth a lot of money. However, when they get to the location where they buried it, it isn't there, and it's revealed that they've been duped again by Turner. Not even Mark, the person who defeated Turner the first time, was able to stop her once she activated the beast snare. In order to stop her, Craig, with the help of Bernard, challenged her to a match. The next few scenes are really good and all kind of fit into the exact same point I want to make, so I'm just gonna play them back to back and pray that I don't get claimed.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. I just wanted to finally play the game like you.
Wait, what?
I always thought it was cool how you outsmarted everybody with just the right move. I just wanted to be like you. Wait, read the card.
At the end of the turn, Squeakers deals 3 damage to me?
Everything about these scenes I just showed you brings every element about this episode that I like and puts it together in a few scenes. Bernard finally comes to understand that he was gatekeeping Craig from something that he himself inspired Craig to do. It's very important that Craig's motivations weren't out of selfishness though, but rather the desire to be like his brother. And despite their differences, Craig admiring Bernard's intelligence makes their relationship believable and complex. Bernard giving Craig his cards and complimenting his way of playing the game was also a nice touch. It shows that even if he does bully his brother a little bit, Bernard still respects how smart he is for his age. It doesn't get too cheesy, which is a good thing because the show isn't heavily moral based, so having scenes like that has to be treated with a certain level of realism. The episode ends with another anime-esque shot of Bernard, and that was Bring Out Your Beast. If I could show a new viewer any episode of Craig of the Creek, I would probably show them this among many other great Season 1 episodes. It gives you a very good look at the kind of characters that Craig and Bernard are. The animation is especially creative in this one, and it's very entertaining to watch, and the comedy doesn't disappoint even though it does take a bit of a back seat. I think all in all, reviewing this episode was a good experience for me because I do have a big passion for this show, but I haven't had the opportunity to talk about it because I felt a bit scared that people wouldn't be interested or people would just write it off because it's not one of the bigger Cartoon Network shows out there. But I soon came to realize that it didn't really matter anyway, and that as long as I was reviewing something that I like and put enough passion into it, I could at least make something that I was proud of and was happy to make. Thank you for watching. I hope your time was well spent, and take care.